Hey, 1420, Danny, Mike, and Brian here with you today in our next video. So we moved from group training. We're going to talk about personal training. So all things personal training, who is a good fit for it, why you might want to do it, success stories that we've had as we've seen over the last year or so. So we go back to kind of this time last year, we talked a lot about, okay, bring in personal training into the mix. We thought there might be a need for it. We've had some good success with it, some great success stories. And so I think we're just going to dialogue through who's going to be, who might be, who has been a good fit for personal training as we've talked through that. So personal training can look a number of different ways. We've done it for some muscle building. I know Mike and Brian are going to speak to kind of some of that. I've done personal training for ever and ever and ever. A lot of times it's post rehab or injury or kids training as we're teaching fundamentals of lifting before they go off into middle school where they're doing some lifting. So we kind of attack it a lot of different ways. And so let's speak to what you've done over the last year in terms of how your personal training has grown a little bit and what you're doing and some of those things. So,
I guess one of the main things that I found with personal training, it allows that particular person to express what their goals are, the way they want to look, the way they want to feel. And we've talked about this quite a bit. I think every person, when they look in the mirror, has this image of how they want to look. That's why they join a gym or come in and do CrossFit, whatever it is. They have a picture of themselves that's maybe not reality right now, but that's where they're wanting to go. And the ones that I've been dealing with all had kind of the same goal of wanting to add muscle to their body. They realized that while they were doing group training and were getting great results, it wasn't allowing them to really be specific and dial in and say, okay, I've conditioned myself now. Now I'm wanting to put more muscle on, or maybe I'm wanting to get stronger in some areas. And it allows us to formulate a plan and write a workout for them that's very specific to what they're wanting to accomplish. And it seems like what I've run into most, especially with training the ladies, is for whatever reason, they had in their mind that if they lifted weights or started training that way, their body was going to begin to look like a man.
yes.
And it scared them away. And then once they started getting into this, they realized that's just not possible for a lady. I mean, I guess you could probably take some illegal substances to force that. But for the normal person, it doesn't happen. But I've watched these ladies' bodies, they start reshaping. And it's amazing to me because I think that it shocks them. And everyone that I'm training right now, they've all had the same comment. Their body fat's going down because we put them on the InBody before we start. So we have a starting point that we can actually measure this success as we go. And it takes all the guesswork out of it, where now as we can monitor their progress and start making adjustments as we have some data that we can compare it to. You know, in 90 days we can compare this. But that theory that you have of try on your favorite pair of jeans in 60 days, 90 days, and now that we're in the jean weather, every one of them have come back and said one of them told me her problem was now she actually has to go buy new jeans because they've actually gotten too loose in her waist. And that, to me, that's just a great success for them, because that's really what they're looking for. Is they want that lean, sexy, you want to look like you train, you know, and they're really enjoying that. But I think the most part, it just allows us to dial in a very specific training method for them and most of them are still doing group training as well.
Yep.
They'll come in a couple of days a week, or a lot of them have been doing a lot of weighted vest walking, just different things to mix it up, because anything we kind of that we do over and over and over, that wear and tear, after a while you just kind of need a break from it and maybe try something a little bit different. So that's what I found with the people that I'm training.
Yeah, and it's been fun to see because there's been bodies are changing,
Yeah.
and it's hard to sometimes put a finger on it because that scale will let you down.
Yeah.
If that's your only method of success is what that number's doing, that number can shock you
Yeah.
because your genes are getting bigger, but your body weight isn't changing,
Yeah.
but the composition of it is. And a good kind of point to touch on is a world doesn't have to exist where you're just doing group training or you're just doing personal training.
Right.
There is that hybrid world,
Yeah.
which we've done a lot of, is maybe it's just a couple PTs, and a lot of these are 30-minute just strength training, a lot of volume, a couple days a week. Maybe scale back from an unlimited membership or a 13-time membership, bring in some personal training, offset some of that cost a little bit,
Right.
and get something a little bit more specific, and then you kind of get your foot in both worlds of
Yeah.
group training and then something specific. So to tie that up, the InBody is there. It's in the office. That's a great starting point. If you don't know, we're coming into, let's get through Thanksgiving. This might be not be the best
Right.
time,
Or it's
to
perfect
start
before.
through. But just kind of put that in your, hey, maybe get your InBody done if you haven't, and see where you're at, because those numbers don't lie, and that always we can chart a course for you, and we know, hey, this is our starting points, and we've got some hardline data that says, hey, this is where we're at, and then we chart a course of this is where you're going. So I know similar scenario. So run through some of what you've seen success wise over the last little bit.
Well, guys, also like retraining that, I mean, we all were told, you're supposed to be a certain number on the scale, and to be able to get on the machine and realize, oh my gosh, like, I'm, you're like, oh, I turned my fat into muscle. No, that's not exactly what happened. But just to see that is such a neat, I don't know, I just so neat when you all of a sudden you see that kind of swapping spots as far as that goes. And that's the neat thing I was going to just chime in on the InBody.
Yeah.
That proof's in the pudding, man. You get on that thing and it'll give you a whole lot of information.
And you're swapping bad weight and putting good weight on, really, when you look at the scale like that.
And I mean, just not to scare anybody, but guys, I've had people's weight go up a little bit and the body fat go way down
That's
just because they
good.
put on so much muscle.
Right.
And I think,
That's a great, because that's a scary thing, is let's go, but
yes.
like, shoot, weight's going, wait, it's not a bad, it's not necessarily a bad.
Well, have you had
bad thing.
clients? I'm sure you guys. I'm sure you guys both had it, but man, I got on my scale, Brian. I'm up 3 pounds, and I'm like, like, well, hang on, hey, let's go get on that machine, so you realize it's good weight
Yes.
you're putting on,
Right.
and a perfect example. Well, I guess I shouldn't say it's perfect, but even somebody like my wife, she's never really weight trained seriously before. We dated and all that. She had just kind of done like more of a boot camp thing, and to see her put on muscle and like even like kind of pretty. I mean, it's been a while, but quick relatively. But she put on quality weight. So guys, like a comparison would be someone like my wife. She's been able to, just slowly add muscle over time, and she's maintained it. That's the best part.
Yeah.
I think to like shift gears a little bit and go to like some of my client stuff. I think the biggest thing Mike and I talk about is just quality volume.
Yeah.
Like you get a little more opportunity to, I selfishly like personal training for the relationships. I love, me, I'm a talker, but, and I've got to do better about staying on pace, but that's where it's at. But I can really find out where you're at, what you want, and go from there. But man, I've had a lot of success where people have just kind of shifted that gear and they've gone from a little more, so people come to me more specific for, man, I think I want to put on, I want to see if I can get really lean, or maybe that wasn't the terms they gave me, but it was just, hey, I just want to drop some body fat. It's just been really neat to see them be able to, shift gears and a couple of my clients still do their regular. I think they'll train at home, do some like street parking, as an example, like Steph Hauk, and Brittany will work out with Steph on occasion, you know. And man, they've done wonderful things, and they've maintained what they've done, you know. But I'm bouncing over the place, as typical Brian. But the volume, guys, the volume on stuff has been where I've seen the most progress is the word. And like Danny always says, you know, hey, you know, with the tempo, you know, you need a little more time. But man, that tempo training has been phenomenal. You know, just kind of mix and match, but it all comes down to that time under tension. And I think in that one-on-one setting, you just get the ability to very specific, focused time under tension in certain areas.
Yeah, and you get
You know.
very specific with work domains, time domains, rest domains. All that is really, really structured. It's a very structured world, and I think what I see there, and you touched on it a little bit, is the kind of slow state cardio in conjunction. So we're taking at least a couple days a week and stepping out of the high intensity world, and we're just focused on volume, quality repetitions, slow state cardio with a vest, without, and those are two really good. I won't say recovery cardio because that's not it, but we're
So
we're
healthy.
approaching that line of
So good for
recovery
you.
day, right? Where a bike ride or a walk or a pickleball or a golf or just leisure lifestyle, active lifestyle type stuff, where we pull out of that high intensity world, even if it's just for a little bit. And I don't think we've talked about it yet, but it's that you can step into the PT world for a period of time and then step back into the high intensity world for a period of time. It doesn't have to be this, I'll never do group training again, or I only do group. Like, you can marry those worlds at different phases of life, or maybe you need a more specific time, or maybe, right, our class time isn't offered when, like, man, I'd love to work out at 10:30 is a perfect time for me, and we don't have a class during that time. Okay, well, this is what that world looks like. So I know you're good at your clients do the cardio, if you will, on their own, maybe outside of the building, and they're maximizing their time here just to focus on sets, reps, tempo, muscle.
Yeah, and you know, just quality work, guys. You know, where you don't have to like look over and keep up with somebody, or you don't have to lift the weight that, man, so and so's over there. And man, I always keep up with them on back squat, but man, I just don't feel the best thing. Man, you don't have to do that, you know. And hopefully people just understand that's okay, you know. But we all know ourselves, man. There's that side of it. Whenever I do conditioning with Mike, which isn't very often anymore, I always knew I had to at least keep up with the guy. I mean, the guy's, I don't know, and I just learned a whole lot from Mike as far as just that finding my sweet spot and just going. Like, you just work just right, just hard enough. And now that hard enough's a little harder than I like.
And you know, another good thing is the different type of movements that we can expose them to in personal training. Because in a group setting, we just don't have enough equipment to do it. So, you know, you could be doing dumbbell bench press, incline, flies, different lat movements, different shoulder movements that just because of a lack of equipment, we don't have enough to put 10 people through it, enough benches. So it really exposes and gets a lot of different volume from different movements as well. And I think that's another thing that helps, because in the group training, we know we're going to have deadlift, squat, cleans, snatch, certain movement that are repeated over and over and over. And there's a whole bunch of other movements that maybe pop up periodically. Where here, now you can kind of switch the from Olympic lifts to more of the physique type lifts. And it really gives the body a good break as well. And the crossover, which you proved the other night, which you took third place, doing things you hadn't done in a while.
Oh, God.
It's just
Sometimes you just put your head down and go. You're like,
it's just a lung issue at that point, right? You haven't been there in a while, but strength-wise is there.
You know, the one thing I lost my area there, but like building the muscle up around the joint. You know, like, I think that is the one thing that I have just seen, like, you know, like, I mean, I don't have as many clients who kind of go back and forth like Mike does from the class
Yeah.
to the other. You know, at least not where I'm seeing them. They're working on their own. But man, guys, like that shoulder's bothering you. You know, man, we spend some time and isolate some little muscles in there. Man, you know, like really when we started off deciding we were going to do more personal training, we were looking for people who were struggling or had like these aches and pains that we just knew we could help. Danny's phenomenal
Yeah.
at corrective exercise. He didn't say that, but I will. But man, that is the one thing, man. Like you got that nagging shoulder injury or that you know, man, my knees just bother me, but you know, I've got an MRI, nothing's torn. Hey, that's when you come see us, guys. Like that's we can do a whole lot of set you up for success long run, you know, and from there is where I want to build that muscle up around the joint so that when you do get back to your CrossFit, you're as strong or stronger, or man, you just feel better. You're not as achy afterwards.
And you realize how important muscle is as you're aging.
Yes.
I mean, we've got the 40s, the 50s,
yeah.
the 60s, and you realize muscle, you can't put a price tag on having muscle on your body so you can maintain a good quality of life as you age, and we're all going to age,
Yes.
unless we leave the earth, you know, before.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is you want to be able to have that quality of life in your 60s, 70s, 80s, however long we're here, to not be where you just can't enjoy life when it's available to you and you have the time, but now you don't have the energy or the strength or the ability to enjoy some of that.
And that leads us kind of into like sorry to cut you off, into a different world where PT kind of comes in a little bit, where you mentioned kind of joint and things like that. So I want to dig into that a little bit. And so you mentioned shoulder injury, right? There's a PT world, and that's where I've done a whole lot of things. Is the clients that I've trained for years, their goal is they're a healthy body weight. They live an active lifestyle. Their goal is they love playing tennis. So they want to be able to stay active on the tennis court. So
be good.
Right?
Still be
And
good.
to enjoy the sport as long as they can. So training for that looks different. Some people, I say, need to save themselves from the group in a sense of, not that the group is bad, but if they just jump into class, their mindset is so attack that they might expose themselves to situations where they are more injury prone, knowing that they will push and push and push and push. So it's almost to save them from themselves mentality, where that controlled environment works better. Another group I love to work with is the kiddos who are going into middle school, right? That's where they start getting their first experience with barbells. And I love being able to at least understand the basics of a back squat, a deadlift, a hinge movement prior to going into schools. Do it a lot of different ways, but you end up with, a couple of middle school age dudes in there trying to outlift each other. That's just kind of the way it's wired. At least there's a foundation laid for that. And so another benefit to the personal training world is the learning environment speeds up so quickly, which is why we've typically done fundamentals leading up into class, is at least you understand where you're at within the scope of the movement, and the learning process is just so much quicker and more efficient versus learning a power clean periodically throughout class, if that's something you want to focus on. So it gives us a world where shoulder hurt, right? And it's okay, there's some specific things that you can do before and after class, but it might be worth your time to spend 30 minutes and just focus on that shoulder, get a program built for you to, hey, do this 3 times a week, right? Specifically to improve that shoulder, or hips, or backs, or if you're constantly dodging a movement in class, that's something we can dig into and say, chill on that movement, do this movement for a period of time. Let's correct some of that, build that back up. Shoulders are always, right? Shoulders and hips, those are where it's those joints that have the most mobility, right? It's all your ball and socket joints. That's where, shockingly, most of the dysfunction occurs is shoulders and hips, right? And that's where we tend to get kind of nicked up. And so that's another world where we can enter in that with you and go, hey, let's fix this. This is happening because of this, or rotator cuff strains, or just all the things that we see. So that's a benefit, is that corrective world, or coming out of rehab world, learning just the fundamentals of movement. So that's where I enjoy spending a lot of my time, is that's why the Legends program kind of existed, is I like that world of, hey, you're a little bit broken. Awesome. We'll meet you exactly where you're at, and we'll build you back up so that you can get into class and do some of those things that you enjoy, or things that you haven't been able to do because you don't enjoy. So that kind of wraps PT world. So we've got it kind of from a, hey, I want to lose body fat. Hey, I want to get stronger. Hey, I'm looking for a program change. Or, hey, I've got some nicks and scrapes and I need to focus on this. Any other benefits of that PT world, or who can fit into that mix, or any other just thoughts in general?
An example would be like Tanya's son, Ethan. Danny said he kind of likes that going into junior high. Man, I got blessed with some kids that were going from junior high into high school. And man, that was kind of just not only pouring into them as a young men, or I guess it's a young man, but getting to actually dialogue with them. I've had a whole lot of, anywhere from that high school age up into, I guess, college too. Yeah. But man, I've really enjoyed working with those age kids. Man, they're just, I'm amazed at how smart these kids are, and how well mannered they are. But just to get to dialogue and pour into them a little bit, like build them up. But man, I've just enjoyed being able to help build their strength up. I guess it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Yeah. But that age group was, I was scared of them. Like, and no joke, I don't have kids, and I don't want to say something mom and dad wouldn't, or whatever. And I just kept thinking like, oh, I'm gonna do this and probably. And once I realized, hey, just meet them where they're at and just be you. Man, that was where I kind of realized, getting feedback from parents like, man, hey, thanks for pouring into my son. I'm like, just being there and listening, and giving him my feedback. Yeah. So that was growth for me. But that was really neat.
But it's a good thing is and you can also, some of them train for sport or doing football or things like that. But I've noticed getting to train my daughter, who's now 10, is, even if you don't fall in love with a sport or wherever you go, if you fall in love with working out, like, you're building that foundation in a 10 to 15-year-old that's, right, society ain't going in that direction. So if you can fall in love with working out, or understanding working out, and relationships with food, and like, those are all lifelong lessons that you get to start at a very impressionable age. And so, yeah, we get the chance to kind of pour into that. And they're, kiddos of our members, which is rewarding as well, right? You get to see kind of the next generation of kiddos come through, which is,
and then we can recruit your daughter for competition.
And then
always helps.
And then you
use it very well.
And then split the work for you in our aviator competition. Well played, Mike.
Yeah, that was good.
Just to in summary, that kind of puts a explanation on it. It's not a better best thing. It's not a group training versus personal training thing. It's a whole world that we do here. But I think it needs some explanation as we've expanded the PT world, and it's not in a contradiction to a group fitness. It's a right alongside. It's really just, hey, what do you want to do? Yeah. Right? We've got an avenue for you, which is good.
Yeah.
I was a kid. Like, I got my class ring. I had played baseball and football in high school, and so I definitely had to have them on my class ring. But man, sure enough, I saw like I think it was like a guy bench pressing, so I had to get that on the class ring. But like, just going back to what you said, man, I fell in love with the exercise. Man, that was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing. And, I mean, I still had a long ways to go. I think I probably learned my most in my 40s when I actually got into CrossFit. I think I learned so much I couldn't even tell you. But that was the thing. I fell in love with the exercise.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess come see us if you have any questions, and maybe you're frustrated with with your progress and
Yep.
have a conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't stress that enough in these videos is use us. That's why we're doing this, is to give you guys just good information, different thought processes, and all the things that that we do here. So to wrap on that,
You know, and guys, I'm going to say this. I think one of my favorite things as just like being an owner or coach here is like, I'll hear some of the stuff Mike's pouring into a client with, and I'll hear stuff Danny's pouring into a client with, and then like it's just neat how it just kind of one will build off the other. You're like, oh wow, you know, I didn't even, you know, I don't know, I learned so much just like by paying attention, you know. But you can learn a lot from a dummy. Well, not that they're dummies, but you remember that commercial? No, pay attention, guys. You never know what you'll hear in a runoff. Sorry.
so with that, 3 dummies signing off. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you on the next video.